Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup, though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup, though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that pivotal lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. It's round number 6. It's PSGL season 36. I had to think for a second there. It is, yeah, it is 36. What a race we had last week in Montreal. We stick to a similar French-speaking region, and by that I mean we're literally in France. It's the Circuit Paul Ricard. It's the return of the French Grand Prix for the first time since season 33. and what an evening we have coming up for you, ladies and gentlemen. Joining alongside me, as always, a man who needs no introduction. It is Mr. Byron Hale. Byron, how have you been keeping? Are you looking forward to this evening?
Well, it's a bit difficult to not look forward to a track like France. How many overtaking opportunities would you like? Well, you pretty much got as many as you could possibly want. Think about your corners, your turn one, brilliant overtaking opportunity there. Plenty of opportunities for all of these drivers to overtake. I've just noticed there is a bit of an issue with the lobby. We've got Q1, Q2, Q3.
Yeah, good old Codemasters sometimes like to do that with the time and terror, but that's thankfully not our issue. That's for the lobby host to sort out, so we can continue with our programming. And we have the championship standings before we get into the main swing of things. You can see it is TOT Fede at the top, and you might be thinking, Evan, but Fede's been excelling for the Scuderia Ferrari team. Who are these new OR team that's taken him? Well, that stands for reserve. And that's because Fede got promoted to F1. He is in amongst the big dogs, and he's going to carry the PSF2 name, but he'll be taking no further part in this PSF2 championship. So he got promoted, and Fede will continue the remainder of the season in PSGL F1. So congratulations, Fede. We wish you all the best. We will miss you here, of course, in PSGL F2, but we do wish you all the best with your new F1 endeavours. That means Dirk is technically your championship leader, or he is only 3 points off, and I'd like to think he'll score 3 points here this evening, but he is your new championship leader ahead of Danielle and Dara Smith in 4th place. Then CPI Jamie in 5th. He's also gone up, so we won't be seeing Jamie anymore either. Jamie, we love you and we will miss you. Then it is Fusilo, Hazara, then it is Phil, Thomas Covers, Diogo Silva, Francesco Lago, CPI Devon, Gilles Johan, then it is Tales, Rayan, Will Murdoch, Damiano, Michelle, Yakita, and ML Slash. A fantastic, or I should say, very close grid. I don't know why I use fantastic, but it is a very close grid heading into this evening. Then Paul Ricard, tonight's track, 5.842 kilometres, as you were saying, Byron, has a lot of overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, plenty of overtaking opportunities around this sort of track because there's plenty of DRS straights as well around this sort of track, and it really does lend itself to a lunge or two. If you can brake just a bit later than those around you, you can get quite a good overtake done into pretty much any of these corners. So it's going to be great to see them battle it out around the Paul Ricard circuit.
Yes, and speaking of the Paul Ricard circuit, I think it's about time we headed trackside of the Paul Ricard circuit because qualifying is underway. There's been no times put in yet, don't worry. You have not missed anything, and it should be a fabulous one. But first man we're going to look at, this is TF Damiano. He is the new driver for Scuderia Ferrari going into this evening. He will take the reins. The TRT Fede dropped swiftly behind him, and he will be teammates with Danielle. Just a quick bit about Damiano. If you've never seen him before, he has raced in PSGL before. Was not last season. His last season was in season 33. He managed to take 2 podiums. Took one in the season opener. That was a P3 in Spain. And then the last round, that was a P2 in Brazil. So a quite successful season. That was in the F3 Championship pack in season 33. He is a Dutchman. Currently racing for CPI Esports, but you might see TF beside his name. He was the first ever esports driver that Talent Factory signed, was TF Damiano, so a bit of prestige comes along with that. You got to have the talent and the skills to get a title such as that, but we're looking forward to having Damiano here in the McLaren. We're very looking forward, in the Ferrari I should say, we're very much looking forward to seeing what he can do, and I'm very much happy that he is a fellow Giannis Antetokounmpo fan. If you know what that is, well, I mean, you watch basketball, basically. But qualifying is underway nonetheless. Damiano is on his first lap. First lap on the board was by the Irishman of Shazoo Dara. Here comes TF10 Dirk, last week's race winner, across the line. That's a job well done by Dirk. Dirk was the pole to winner last week, the only man to do so this season. We had a different pole sitter and a different race winner in every round so far, but Dirk broke that trend. And there is Michel, got first points last week in Canada. An excellent job there by him. It was also Will Murdoch's first points last week. Here comes Thomas Covers up towards the line, though.
Yeah, Thomas Covers, very good lap time there, going up into provisional pole position as things stand at 1:28.399, not too shabby at all for him, and well, plenty of lap times still to come in this qualifying session. In fact, looking at there, Danielle there going into second place there with an identical lap time. Wow, don't get that all too often. And well, beautifully done there from Danielle. A purple sector 3 there, matching times. They don't get any closer to that to the car in front of you, but look at Raphael, by the way. Purple sector 1 and a very good sector 2. This could be a good lap time from Raphael to go P1 in this qualifying session, but can they get it as they come across the line? Good sector 1, good sector 2. Is it going to be high up? It's 4th, so good lap time there for Raphael, but plenty of laps to come and a lot of time left as there's over 12 minutes left on this clock still.
Yes, there is, and we're looking at Facilo heading in towards the final sector. This is turn number 12 of Bendor. Facilio, of course, took the race win at a location just a little bit south of Paul Ricard. Of course, that was at Monaco, which is a principality, but it is still at the south of France geographically. But Facilo is going to come across the start-finish line. That was me attempting to not start any political conflicts in the stream chat. I hope they did a decent job. But Facilio, though, does go to 5th. It's very close at the top of this order, mind you. Top 10 separated by just under 0.4 of a second. Damiano, the man who is the blockade of that. The Dutchman, of course, although he was a reserve, did also score his first points last week in Montreal. Will Murdoch won't set a lap time. He has invalidated his lap. So it's just Will and Hazara who have not got times on the board. It's dead evens at the top of the timing tower. However, the Dutchman of Thomas Covers set his lap ahead of the Italian of TRT Danielle, hence why he is the man currently on the pole position. It's quite a dull day in France. It's not necessarily a day for sunbathing, but it's still dry for the time being. No sign of rain on the horizon, but it could come at any point, really.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that you can get rain at pretty much a moment's notice, and nonetheless, I mean, for some drivers, they might even be hoping for a bit of rain in adverse conditions, especially if you look at last time out, because when the rain hit, that's when the rain hit in Canada. It did like to cause a little bit of chaos, and hopefully that's what some of these drivers are going to be wanting tonight, but nonetheless, whether it happens or not, they've got to deal with the business here in qualifying. With 10 minutes now left in this qualifying session, you know, trying to think about my pick for pole, and I've just got no idea. It could really be anyone. I mean, I'm looking at, you know, who do I think could get it, and I mean, I mean, you've got to go with Thomas Covers. You know, he's looking rapid, but you can't count anyone out because the field is so close.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very good point. You can't really count anyone out at this stage because they're all so close together. Dara Smith, maybe another man who could take it. We're seeing him wander around on his outlap. I was told by the powers that be, the drivers, of course, that a 0.0 could be on the cards, a 28.0, and then someone said a 0.9. I presume they mean a 27.9, not a 28.9, because we're well past that at this stage. So, yeah, could get interesting. About 4 more 10s, then that suggests we have yet to come and yet to be unlocked here this evening. But a man who is in a very good position in the championship now is TF10 Dirk, of course. 3 points off the championship lead, and the championship leader will not be racing in this division for the rest of the season. It's not a bad spot to be in, Byron, is it?
No, it's definitely not. And you know, when some drivers get promoted, you know, now you got to think about your own championship. It gives you a good opportunity because you know, well, they're not getting any more points. That means more opportunities for me, especially if you were looking towards the top of this one. But we're getting these second laps underway now as CPI Michelle XP down in 6th place now begins there. Flying lap around this circuit, and well, whilst we're on, you know, looking at this lap, you know, think about, you know, this sort of track. You know, you go through turns 1 and 2 and then down into turn number 3 here. It's so difficult on the brakes, really got to be quite pinpoint accurate with it. And now you go into Saint Bermune here as we now head towards the end of it. Turn number 6 on the exit here is now it's Lecole here is turn 7. It's barely a turn at all, you know, for some of these cars, because it's just merely a little judder on the steering wheel. You go down the straight here and down into turn number 8 and 9, and on the exit here Very important to get that exit right, because this heads all the way down through into signs and then down into Droit. Oh, I'm going to butcher this. Droit de Bassout here down in at turn number 11. Turn number 11, if you remember when Charles Leclerc crashed into a barrier, that was down here, and that is a very difficult corner to get lap after lap. But now through turn 12, and then, well, taken nicely by Michel XB, who's not really improving here, but it's a good lap time to kind of look at here. But now into Raj Daluk, which is turn number 14, and then Dupont, turn number 15. And if you get this corner right during the race, it could set you up well to jump up the order, because you can get an overtake using the DRS you get through that final corner. It's not an improvement, well, it's a small actually improvement there from Michel XB as Rayan goes on top.
Yeah, that final corner of Dupont, not to be confused with world-renowned scrum half Antoine Dupont. That's a joke that some people will enjoy. Rayan then goes to first place, a very good lap from him. Remember, took pole in the Austrian Grand Prix, so he's a man who knows how to set a quick lap, but that's instantly beaten by Thomas Covers, who goes quickest of the bunch. Next will be the other Haas towards the start-finish line, that's Tales, but keep an eye on some, just a little bit down under that. Tales goes to 10th, Phil as well has invalidated his lap actually. Mel Slash, I believe, has jumped up to 13th. Here comes Max van der Geest running for the final corner. McLaren have had nothing short of a howler of a season so far, but that's trending in the right direction at least. That's 5th place for Max van der Geest. Let's see how Dower is performing the first sector. Well, he's not performing well at all because it's an invalid lap. Vasilo is heading in towards turn number 11, which name I'm not going to pronounce because Byron gave it a way better go than I would. Vasilo now just about trying to thread the needle through there. That was a large amount of rotation for Vasilo. He got the car hooked in there nicely, and the Williams doing an excellent job. EPL Rafale goes it behind EPL Rayan. It's second and third for the two Ferrari customer teams of Haas and Sauber. Here comes Vasilo in for the final corner then, the final of 15 of course, and has sort of a long run towards the start-finish line. Pole position, of course, on the left side of the grid for the main race. You stay on the left side at the end of your lap to try and minimise the wheel rotation. No improvements, however, despite the tactics from Fasilo. Then it's the home hero of Johan, who's not improving on his next lap. Damiano, neither is Francesco Lago, neither is Will Murdoch. So a lot of mistakes on that second lap compared to the first. Seems like maybe the drivers are starting to find the limits of the circuit now, Byron.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got about, I've got at least 6 drivers who invalidated on that run. I believe it was Rayan, Fusaro, Tales, Phil, Mflash, Marcus Costa, and Francesco Lagos. A lot of drivers invalidating on their very important runs here. And right now you've got to think about these third and final runs. A bit more pressure on for some of these drivers, but Thomas Covers, you can't fault that man. He's had 2 amazing laps so far in the session. But good point about Max van der Geest there, who's in 6th place. Gonna highlight, he has the fastest middle sector of everyone as things stand in this qualifying session. That is no mean feat around a track like this. You think that the middle sector is merely just a straight in a couple of corners, but those corners, especially Saint Bermune, which is turns 3 all the way to turn 6, which, you know, on the exit of turn 4 is when sector 2 really begins. You know, they're very technical corners, and, you know, if you get them wrong, especially turns 8 and 9, you can get invalidated very, very easily. So maximizing that lap time, it's a risk, and it's one that Max van der Geest has perfected, and that is why he is in 6th place as things stand.
Every car in the pit lane, and a bit of a, I suppose, a sickening fact, maybe this one for the 2 McLaren drivers of the McLaren team. Neither driver is in the top 20 of what is theoretically a 20-car championship. That is, of course, including the reserves, but neither of the McLarens are in the top 20. ML Slash is in the top 20 and hasn't scored points, meaning McLaren have not got a single point out of their main drivers so far this season. That has to change. It's round 6 of the season. If they want a semi-decent result in the Constructors' Championship, a few race wins maybe are needed. And yeah, that's it's not a great place to be in if you are the McLaren team. But at the end of the day, and I say this all the time, PSGL is an individual championship. you want to do the best you can in the Drivers' Championship. The Constructors' Championship is just a bonus, and that is for sure. First, or one of a few out on circuit, is Thomas Covers. The man just ahead of him is his teammate Michel, the two AlphaTauris, opting to go out earliest here. I wonder, is that tactical, or is that just how it's worked out?
Well, I think certainly for Michelle XP there, definitely a tactical decision, because I mean, thinking of the time it takes to set a lap time around here, it's about 1 minute 30 lap time. Actually, it seems like Michelle XP isn't going to be able to do what I thought. I thought leaving a buffer so that if you invalidate your final run, you can just cool off, recharge the battery, and try and go again. But then I've realized that actually going to be crossing the line with about 1 minute. About 1 minute 50 to go for Michelle XB, who is about to begin their final flying lap around the circuit. So not sure that's a good strategy or a good tactic, as they cross the line 1 minute 54 on the clock. So, you know, now it's a bit of an interesting time for Michelle XB, because if, you know, you are to invalidate, you've got to try and push it to the max to try and get another lap time on the board. But plenty of drivers coming across the line in a couple of seconds' time, but Michelle XP sector 1 towards the end of it, and not improving, but only marginally down on his best sector 1 time, as now Thomas Covers goes through the final corner, and his teammate is already nearly at the start of sector 3. Just how short the lap time is around here, only 1 minute 28. 0.236 at the moment, the best time, but I think there's going to be quite a few improvements here if you're able to deliver on that all-important lap time. But sector 2 time for Michelle XB is 3.7 seconds down, so probably opting to recharge the battery and go again. But Thomas Covers is he's not going to have to recharge and go again, because he's a tenth up in sector number 1. So a good initial sector 1 time from Thomas Covers. It is time to see what this man can do.
Yes, very good first sector from the Dutchman. Oh no! It's all gone wrong on the entry to the chicane. He's pulled over too much on the right-hand side, and that's that lap done. Invalid. Once the yellow drops on the top left, we'll see if he has enough time for another lap, but I would not think so. Rayan has made the same mistake. It'll be no lap for either of them. Rafal, the door is ajar, and he could just slip his Sauber into the gap. Big middle sector from Danielle as well. He could play a part in this battle for pole position. He's won pole already this season. That came in Albert Park. Very different circuit to Paul Ricard here, but the Italian could easily spring a surprise from 4th place. Covers is done. It's a 128.2 is his best. He was improving by quite a margin, but he could not complete the lap and made a crucial error. Here comes Danielle through 14, then in towards the final quarter of 15. It seems a fairly decent final sector for Danielle. He needs over a tenth and a half if he wants to take pole position. Here comes the Italian, the Scuderia Ferrari, to the start-finish line. No, he's lost it all in that final sector. It'll not be pole position for him. How is Rafal tracking? He's tracking okay. It's not enough for pole position, but he is tracking okay, as we see Michel slightly up as well. He's gone for another attempt. Dirk, very big improvement in the second sector for him. He's currently improving enough to actually take pole position here from the lot of them, as is one of the Red Bulls across the line. That's going to be Francesco Lago, who goes up to 11th position, as IRT Phil, the second Red Bull, snatches it. But can Dirk maybe take it from them both across the start-finish line for Dirk? No, he's narrowly missed out ahead of IRT Phil. Dramatic circumstances here in Paul Ricard, as it's got even more dramatic. Rafal snatches pole for Sauber right at the end. Unbelievable. It's a 28 flat for Rafal. Can Will Murdoch maybe even make this more? No. It'll only be 16 for him, and the home hero Johan won't be able to pip that. Unbelievable. Rafal with this final sector of his life to take that one.
Yeah, what a lap time there. Looking at the timing, he was down in the first sector and then just set purple, and purple. We're not even going to have a lobby restart because there were no penalties. We're going to get thrown straight into this. I have no idea how we have got no penalties around a track like this, but here is your rundown. It is Raphael on pole position here in Paul Ricard, followed by IRT, Phil, TF10 Dirk, Thomas Colours, he wasn't able to get a final lap time in because he invalidated. He's all the way down in 4th. He was leading, the field away on those final runs. Ryan there in 5th, Danielle in 6th, Fuselo there in 7th, Hazara 8th, Dragasmith in 9th, and then Max von der Geest running at the top 10. McLaren need points here today, and well, he's got to drive. There's a car in the top 10. Not looking too bad, but there we go. That was...
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to PSGL Season 36 F2. It's round number 6. It's the French Grand Prix. We don't have a lobby restart, so we'll be going straight into the swing of things. Sort of unusual circumstance for PSGL these days, or for league racing these days. 5.842 kilometre circuit, of course, 15 corners, 6 to the left and 9 to the right. The last time the F2 tier came here to Paul Ricard, it was TF Lars who managed to take the race win. If TF Damiano could do it on his main debut, he would absolutely love that. A lot of PSGL history around this French Grand Prix circuit. Jano Opmeer did his last race in F1 2022 on this circuit. There was also another Jano Opmeer incident at the French Grand Prix, but we won't bring up that one. The first ever F2 winner here around Paul Ricard, well, that was Lewis 11 004, not a knock-off James Bond. Can confirm that was for Haas in season 21. What a performance it was on that day. But Byron, quick prediction from you, I think. Who's going to win this one?
I'm going to say Thomas Covers solely because he wasn't able to get that final run in. His pace was blistering throughout that session, wasn't able to get the final run in. But I mean, it's going to be a matter of moments until we're getting underway for this race. And, actually, the second, 3, 4, 5 red lights are on. Take it away, Evan.
It is a wet and windy day in the south of France as we go racing here in Paul Ricard. It's a great start from Rafale. It's the full wet tyres. Phil, the German, with experience in these conditions, gets an excellent launch on the outside, but he's got TF10 Dirk up the inside. I feel we forgot to even mention how wet it truly is. It's the full wet tyres. It's not often seen in PSGL or maybe even in Formula 1 from time to time, but it is a very, very cagey start. They're all going slow, making sure the front wings and parts of their car are all kept intact heading in towards this right-hander. A couple of the drivers were hoping that this was going to be a wet race as IRT Devon pushing and barging with Max van der Geest. Devon, the last time he raced here, he finished 4th back in season 33, and you can see side by side with the McLaren and Max van der Geest. Max needs a result here today. He needs a performance, and he's side by side with Devon now, looking to continue this strong one. Dara defends in towards the chicane. Oh, look at this from Devon. This is audacious. There's contact between the Sauber and the Alpine. The French car and the Irish man both go off the circuit. 5-second penalties apiece. That's a bit of a sickener here for the start of the race.
Yeah, a bit of a crazy start to this one. I'm noticing there's a few drivers who've taken a bit of a gamble in this one. Intermediate tyres for a few drivers. Apparently, according to my telemetry, I'm not sure if it's lying to me. No, it is not. Francesco Largo, Fuselo, as well as NL Slash, all on the intermediate tyres. Safety car as well. An incident happens there behind. That is Draga there in 20th with no front wings. So an incident there between a few drivers as now we go and slow down quite a lot. But a bit of a maybe opportunity to breathe in this one, especially for those who've gambled on intermediate tyres.
That's a weird one that a safety car's brought out. That I thought Darrow would have been out of the race with the safety car being called, but it's just no front wing. A lot of gamblers. I wonder, are these all for the intermediates?
They're all coming in for intermediates.
They are. The Inter seems the quicker tyre. We spoke about Monsieur Jano Opmeer before the race. He, of course, is a man known for a historic performance on the Inters in a wet race. That was esports in China, of course, but a couple of drivers were trying that heroics. Unfortunately, this first lap safety car has put a lot more onto this Inter. It's a real split grid. It is a real split grid. Top two, Phil and Covers, both stay on the wets. Johan and Marcus Costa stay on the wets. Everyone else has gone for the softer, not necessarily softer, the less grooved wet tyre of the intermediate compound. Look, this is going to be a very interesting safety car restart.
Yeah, it definitely is absolutely going to be a very interesting safety car restart. The rain is stopping in 43 minutes time, so depending on, if this rain gets lighter or if it stays about the same, could make the difference between whether the intermediates are better or whether those wets are going to prevail. I have got no idea which tyre seems better of the two. I mean, it looks very wet out there, but is there enough standing water to justify the wet compound tyres? I'm not quite sure if there is, to be honest with you, Evan. So I'm wondering, actually, if IRT, Phil, Thomas Covers, as well as I believe it's Marcus Costa and Johan, who've stayed out as well. I think maybe they've made the wrong call here.
It's a weird one. I'm quite unsure. Let's actually have a look on board with Phil, see he's the right... Ooh, there's a bit of spray, mind you. Now, alright, it's an F1 game, that's not how you really decided, but there is still a bit of spray, but it could be an Inter. Paul Ricard is a very weird one. I remember back on F1 2021, there was always a period in the rain cycle of Paul Ricard that meant that the softs were quicker in the wet than the Inters were. Like, that's just the pinnacle of game development. I'm very much aware, but it's a weird one. Inters versus wets. I mean, we'll find out come the end of the next lap, but if you're Phil or Thomas, if they've gone for the right strategy here, this could really pay off. If you're Facilio, Francesco and Will, obviously, same thing applies. What a race start for Will Murdoch, by the way, currently in 5th position. He has gained 11 spots on that race start. Will, a man who hustled a Lamborghini Huracan around the Nordschleife in the Gran Turismo World Series, but to go up 11 positions so far in this race a week after scoring your first points, that's going to just continue on the confidence he's already built.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see that confidence beginning to build with him. But Devin back into the pit lanes again, another set of intermediate tyres. He doesn't need confidence,
no,
you're quite right. Yeah, I mean, I wish I had as much confidence as he did in my own driving, especially given I'm learning to drive at the moment. But I digress. Devin back into the pit lane, changes front wing again, onto a new set of intermediate tyres. The intermediate tyres, they don't, lose pace all too quickly, so, you can make that sort of decision. It just gives you that bit of extra freshness in your tyres as well. But Phil, be interesting to see how he approaches this restart, as well as Thomas Covers. Does Thomas Covers try and hold up those behind? Surely he's got to try as much as possible, but I very much think the intermediates are going to be better once we get back underway. But only time will tell when the safety car restart does get the way it should be. At the end of this lap, I would have thought, as we about to approach, I think, the safety car final line in just a couple of moments time, I believe. So we should know very, very shortly. But it doesn't look like it's going to come in.
No, peculiarly enough. Oh no, it is.
Oh, it's very late.
Yeah,
bit
very
late.
But Maylander has eased up.
Absolutely.
Has it eased up enough? I'm not sure.
Call. I think the IRT Phil, Thomas Covers, as well as Johan and Marcus Costa have absolutely made the wrong call here, but they weren't necessarily to know that the moment we were going to get back underway, it was going to be pretty much intermediate tyres. But Phil, leading us around the final bend of the track, well, trundling around rightfully so, and going to plant the throttle down ever so carefully because he's going to know these tyres are going to be a bit on the colder side here. Thomas Covers not able to stick with him all too well, but Fuselo actually getting almost caught out by the pair of them. So Fuselo not actually gaining time or really anything on those two ahead. But as you go through turn number 1, you see it already. The fact that they are worming their way through this sequence of track, and they are seemingly struggling quite a bit, but Fuselo struggling quite a bit more actually, so the track conditions might not be laying themselves to the Inters right here, right now, or Fusilow's tyres not quite up to temperature.
Yeah, it's very close. It's really close. It seems corner entry, the Inters are it, but on exit, the Wets have the number on them. Oh, unless you're going through there, and your name is Phil and Thomas, because they both got equally as squarely on the exit of turn number 7. My goodness me, was that almost carnage heading down the main straight. Dive here from Rafal, the pole sitter, on the inside of Marcus Costa. Job done. Marcus a man on the wets, maybe an indication of how they're feeling for the rest of the grid. Bit of a squiggle out of the corner there for Marcus as well. 1 second between Fasilo and Thomas. Remember, there's no DRS either way, so if you drop out of a second, it's no biggie, but you want to keep as close as possible to the front too. It's extremely close on the tyres, and I think you'd rather be on the tyre that should only get better over time compared to the tyre that will inevitably get worse. So I'm not sure if going for the Inters is the worst call just yet. It might not be ideal now, but short-term pain for long-term gain, unless your name is Will Murdoch and you're going to get both, because he's just gone off the inside of Mr. Triple Speed, Francesco Lago, and the Briton is up into 4th place.
Yeah, as Rayan loses quite a lot of places here. Massive battle here between Johan, Dirk, Rayan, and Danielle there as, Rayan runs slightly wide as the fastest lap there for Phil, but that's no surprise. He was the first driver to cross the line, so that was to be expected. The fastest sector one time, though, went to Johan, and the fastest second sector went to Danielle, and the fastest third sector went to Tanners. All 3 drivers on the intermediate tyres. So actually, proving a little bit on the difficult side. In fact, actually, I was slightly wrong with that. Johan still on those wet tyres, but he's going to get overtaken by Dirk there as we head down into St. Bermune here, and a beautiful around the outside there as now we go towards the exit, and that is turn number 5 here as the car nearly goes round there for Johan, and now the battling continues there. That's Max von der Gies trying to get past Johan, as well as Marcus Costa. He's running in the top 10 as well. Could be a good result here for McLaren as well. Murdoch battles there with Fusilo here, and the battle just doesn't seem to be letting up absolutely anywhere. I mean, where do you even want to look for battles here as Johan continues to battle with Hazara for 11th?
Yeah, Johan's very lucky to be in this race on this wet compounded tyre. He had a massive slide out of the corner, and it was lucky he didn't hit anyone. Remember, last time we raced here in Season 33, Johan got 2nd at his home Grand Prix, which was a fabulous result, but he's about 10 positions off that at the minute and 12th, and it seems like that's only going to get worse. It was a champion's move from Dirk round the outsiders. Look at this. Will Murdoch is genuinely the quickest man on this circuit. Pardon the pun, but he's taking to these conditions like a duck to water. And the Mercedes is hounding down the men at the front of this race. As you can see, Thomas Covers has given up the ghost. He's into the pit lane for a set of the intermediate compounded tyres. Will Murdoch crosses the line 5 laps down. We go on to lap 6. It's the quickest lap of the race. 1.4 seconds separates the top 2. It's been quite some time since Will Murdoch won a race in this tier, of course. Racing for Mercedes, his best result last season was only 5th. He's on the podium here provisionally, but look, anything could happen in this race still. We're not even close to being halfway through it.
Yeah, absolutely, but Will Murdoch 1 second quicker than IRT Phil. Bearing in mind he was making overtakes on that lap too, so it can only get better for Will Murdoch here. He is hunting down IRT Phil for first place in this race, and just looking at sector 1 alone, 3 tenths faster. So it is all going in the favour of Will Murdoch as things stand, and those who took that early gamble onto the intermediate tyres didn't seem like the right call at the time, but as the rain eased off very, very quickly, absolutely it became right timing for those intermediate tyres. Now we continue up towards Sign there, and then into Droit de Bassoud, Droit de Bassau, sorry, and now Will Murdoch 4 tenths faster in that second sector, so he's gained about 7 tenths up to this point. And the lap time really suggests it. He was 1.4 behind. Now he's only 4 tenths behind. Those wet tyres are not cooking like IRT Phil, Thomas Covers, Marcus Costa, and Johan would have wanted, as Phil also gives up the hunt on that set of compounded tyres. And now Will Murdoch, he's got no one left to chase after. He is first in this race.
And he's first in this race by quite some... Oh my goodness me, the 2 McLarens are side by side in the pit lane. That was dodgy for the two. They're side by side into the pit lane. one on the intermediate, so I'm not too sure what he's going for. Max van der Geest is going to be crucified by the double stack. I'm not sure what he's going for. He's going for a new set of. He's going for a wing change. So it's a wing change for Max. McLaren's woes continue, and Max will be very much at the back of this race. 9/10 the gap up the front between Facilo and Will Murdoch. So Facilo went with Will partially in that period, and it was the intermediates the answer to our many questions. It is 7 laps completed of the 27. Yellow flag in the first sector. That is an AlphaTauri. No, it isn't an AlphaTauri. Maybe Phil or Damiano. I'm not too sure who it was. It was only brief. Also, another thing to point, maybe not necessarily the Scuderia Ferrari debut Damiano was dreaming of last night.
No, absolutely, definitely not the dream debut he would have been thinking of, you know. But unfortunately, you know, he's just got to deal with the cards he has been dealt, unfortunately. And in this race, you know, 15th place. You know, you're looking for more, but there's a long way to go in this one. 21 laps as we go round this time by. But, you know, looking at the battle there between plenty of drivers here. Thomas Covers, though, he may have been a late switcher, but he's got some good pace on these intermediate tyres. Purple Sector 1, Purple Sector 2, but that is taken away by Yoan there, who's down in 19th place. And he's already caught back up very nicely to the back of Damiano and Phil here. In fact, actually, he's got past Damiano there.
Oh, no.
Into turn number 12. He got it all out, and there's Tales, who's also got it all wrong going through the final corner there.
Hit. Michel went for a move up the inside into the final corner and hit the Haas round. It was not an ideal scenario for the pair of them, and Tales has suffered from that. I think that one could be looked at by Krypton and the post-race stewards after this evening's action is concluded. As Francesco Lago, wow, that's a snap. Heading down in towards turn number 3, in 4th place, hasn't lost any, or major time from it, I should say, but still not the ideal thing to happen. I tell you what, this is a race of attrition. It is it is quite like the popular Netflix series Drive to Survive.
Yeah, it's absolutely looking very dramatic and very all over the place as things stand. These drivers really seem to be struggling in these mixed conditions, a little bit more difficult from what they're probably typically used to, unfortunately, but nonetheless, they're having to deal with these tricky circumstances. We've got 22 minutes until the rain is over as well, so you know, we're looking about in the last 5-10 laps of this race, gonna go back to some resemblance of dry, so possibly even that could play a bit of a factor too in terms of giving us a bit more of a difficult end to this race, especially for those drivers, you know, who might want to take a bit of a gamble here, but someone who doesn't need to think about any sort of gamble as things stand. Will Murdoch out in front. He, you know, a couple of attempts slower than Fusilo on that last lap, but not looking bad as Hazara and Danielle go side by side through there, through into the pont now. Hazara's got the inside line, but can Danielle get the switchback? He's shown the door on that one, and unfortunately runs a little bit wide there as he goes side by side with Hazara. But now we begin lap number 9 with these two drivers, and now Danielle, he's lost a place to Hazara. He's got to try and think about this re-overtake here, but Hazara is not looking too shabby in this one as Danielle now tries to go side by side as we head down the hill. Thomas Covers will lead fastest lap time here, and well, Danielle really applying the pressure to Hazara just moments after going side by side with the driver in the Aston Martin as they now run out of there, and now side by side out through now into, well, down this straight that would have DRS, doesn't have DRS now, and well, for them it is going to be a long old time and a long old battle in this race. 3 seconds off the next car, but they've certainly got a lot to go.
Yes, they do. There's battles across the field. It's Dara and Diogo who are battling here. Dara now up to 12th position. Bit of a pace advantage for Dara, it seems, in these conditions. He's Irish. He should be used to weather like this. As the two French cars swap around here with Paul Ricard. That is Devon who gets ahead of ML Slash. I can't imagine that's an intentional let-through from ML Slash, but if it was, it's a good decision. Devon does seem to just have the quicker pace as well as more experience around this circuit in these conditions, of course, racing in PSGL F2 for quite some time around this track. Diogo has lost the position to Tales as well here. Oh, no, he's not. That's going to be handed back to him. Tales has just lit up the rears, unfortunately, on the exit of turn number 12. And it is au revoir to P13 for the Brazilian. That is disappointing for him. Not been the strongest of races for Tales. One wasn't due to his fault. That one, unfortunately, very much was.
Yeah, unfortunate for him, losing 3 places there, down in 16th place. He really doesn't seem to be gelling all too well with these intermediate tyres. But nonetheless, Damiano has also gone for a spin there on the exit of turn number 12. And really interesting place to spin as well, because he's pretty much cut the corner. So really curious to see what is going on in this race for Damiano. In fact, I'm expecting he's probably going to retire here because he just has not had the best time of it. But nonetheless, the battling continuing across the field as well. Fusilo, he lost a couple of attempts on the last lap, but now he's reeling back in Will Murdoch ever so slightly. But, you know, these gaps between some of these drivers so close, especially for these adverse and very different track conditions, because, you know, it's not the easiest, especially in these wet conditions, to try and overtake and keep pace with those around you, especially, you know, with the dirty air, you know, that you get and the lack of DRS.
Yes, Dirk gets ahead of Francesco Lago. Great move from Dirk there in the Aston Martin to run it up the inside, and he has got that job done. Yellow flag in the first sector. It is a horrid Ferrari debut for Damiano. He is out of the French Grand Prix. First man to retired in the pit lane. Not a strong result for the Ferrari, but I'm sure he'll be back next week. IRT Phil is now hounding down Thomas Covers. This is a battle that you could be confused to see for the race lead. That's because it was the battle for the race lead at one point. They're about trying to cut through the field on the best set of tyres out of the first pit stops. Of course, some people have done 2 pit stops to 2 McLarens, for example. Thomas Covers, fastest lap of the race. There's Rayan there.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
I was totally like trying to unmute on Discord, and it just like completely said no. But yeah, the action really difficult. It's been a terrible debut for Damiano here, but also a terrible race for McLaren. What happened to a driver in the top 10? What happens if they had 2 drivers in the top 10 at one point? They're back down to 18th and 19th in this race, so terrible race for them as well. They really need to get points in this championship. But Thomas Covers, he's trying to move up the order too. He has the fastest lap time of this race, 1 minute 42.0, which is quite a bit faster than anyone else in this race. In fact, the next best lap time that I can see is over a tenth slower, and really the average field is in the 1:43. So he's looking very good in this race. He's one of very few who's been consistently in the 1:42s or thereabouts, and everyone else falling off. So nonetheless, definitely a long way to go in this race, especially for Thomas Covers. He's going to be looking for every position he can, but Will Murdoch still out in front, 2.5 seconds. He's doing a very good job at extending the gap here.
Rayan into the pit lane. Rayan is into the pit lane, and I wonder, no, it can't be slick, surely, it's still raining. And just a report on Damiano, the reason his race has not gone well, it was actually a wheel issue. His Fanatec broken is exactly what he said, so I don't have anything more than that. Rayan is in for a wheel change. So, disappointing for Haas. So far, fast lap of the race goes to Phil. I think the track is getting better slowly, because the fastest laps they're being slaughtered left, right and centre. Johan now the quickest on a 1:41, as Will Murdoch. This is probably the best F2 race he's driven in quite some time, maybe since Monza last season. I don't want to jinx him, but he is performing well. Will Murdoch and Fusilo, first and second. Look, they have more races maybe in PSGL than a lot of the grid combined, so it certainly shows that wet weather, you need experience for it. There was a 3-second time penalty for Dirk. There's now free for Rafal, as he currently running in third. So third and fourth, both with 3-second time penalties. That's disappointing for those two guys. But lap 12 at 27 is Will Murdoch, Fusilo, Rafal, Dirk, Francesco Lago, your top 5. But that could still change. Yeah,
absolutely. Lots to change within this race, and especially with those time penalties beginning to come into play and becoming a bit of a factor now as well. You know, they will have an impact, especially depending on where you are in this race, as Thomas Covers there gets ahead of Diogo Silva as well as IRT Phil. So showing the pace that Thomas Covers and IRT Phil have by getting past Diogo Silva, who's running about 2 seconds a lap slower than the pair of them, Thomas Covers and IRT Phil, really getting some good pace here and losing, you know, a lot of time is Diogo Silva, who just 2 seconds a lap. That is a lot of time around this sort of track, especially when the lap time, even in these wet conditions, it's only, you know, in the 1 minute 40s-ish or so. So not looking bad in this one at all, as Johan there gets ahead of Tales. And that is going onto the straight there. So on the exit of Dupont, as Marcus Costa gets ahead of Tales too. But nonetheless, plenty to go in this race. Lap 13 of 27, and Diogo Silva trying to keep with those cars in front of Thomas Covers and RT Phil, but they're trying to ride off into the sunset here because they have got blistering pace.
They are, and you can see Tales very much struggling in this race. We're almost at the halfway point of it. Will Murdoch doing an excellent job at the front of it. As you can see, IRT Phil and Thomas Covers battling down in towards the chicane. Phil just ahead for the time being. But Will, he is a man known maybe more for consistency than outright pace. Last season, he scored points in 4 out of his 5 PSGL appearances. It was 15th in the championship, but, I mean, he only did 5 races, so he missed a lot of this season. Had got on the podium at Monza, but got taken off of it probably just as quickly. He knew himself he was in for a penalty, so there was no real celebrations around the Autodromo that day. But yeah, he has not won a PSGL race maybe for quite some time. He'd love for that to change here this evening, but there's a lot he has to do if he wants for that to change this evening. Johan picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's now 4 penalties across the board here on this grid, as Aston Martin, in terms of the Constructors' Championship, are having a very strong race. You're looking at the Norwegian of Hazara, who is driving well. Hazara feels that maybe he should have been in line for a bit of a promotion when the promotion race was going on. But, I mean, he's doing well in this race this evening. Maybe that might turn a few heads, but he'll be looking to get a couple of podiums maybe in the second part of the season. Still a great opportunity here today for a podium, because 2 of the drivers in front of him do have penalties, and the other 2 are literally right in front of him. This is Francesco versus Daniele. It is an Italian versus Italian fight between these two, as Rayan, first man into the 39's track, is getting quicker.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and wow, that's a good lap time there from Rayan. Obviously, he's put an extra time in this race, so he has got slightly fresher tyres than the rest of the field, but nonetheless, very good pace from him, and showing exactly what those intermediate tyres can do. But it shouldn't be all too long until the rain stops. Looking at about 12 minutes to about 5, 6, 7 laps time-ish, and we'll be seeing the track heading back to dries, and that's going to be an interesting point in this race, as Raphael there gets ahead of Fuselo, as does Dirk as well. So Fuselo seems to be struggling in
he was
this
tapped.
race.
Yeah, Raphael tapped him through the corner, and Fuselo very lucky to actually still maybe be in this train. Raphael dived down the inside into turn number 11, was looking like a good move, but it all got a bit precarious in the middle sector, and then those guys are lucky not to have anything more come from it. Dirk just pulling out of the slipstream, trying to maximise his exit, or maybe even just going off the racing line to cool the intermediates. That was a Michael Schumacher tactic. Pull off the line to cool your tyres. They might be able to make the end of this race. These intermediates are going to be starting to feel a little bit worse for wear. Byron will be able to tell you guys more on the exact tyre status with his telemetry, but just to the naked eye, it looks like these guys are starting to struggle a little bit. We're seeing a few more penalties, we're seeing a few more mistakes.
Yeah, and we absolutely are seeing a bit more mistakes. I'm looking at, well, funnily enough, given you mentioned it, and I just decided to have a little look and gauge into the tyre wear of these drivers. I'm looking at Raphael, who's obviously in second place at this current moment in time, and the tyre wear, he's currently on 45% tyre wear on those intermediate tyres. He's been on them for 13 laps of this race, so interesting to see that he has really struggled quite a little bit in this race on those intermediate tyres and worn them quite a lot. You know, so it's definitely going to be a bit more of a struggle to get to the end of this race on a set of tyres. They're definitely going to have to pit when it gets to dries, but hopefully for them, they'll be praying and maybe doing a little bit of a dance that it doesn't hold off much longer.
Oh, Dirk side by side with Rafal heading through turn number 12 here. Dirk has got ahead. The man looking to become the championship leader-elect. He is up to second. It's been a fabulous performance from TF10 Dirk so far here this evening. He has done a stellar job. And Rafal and Facilio can only look in his way because he will head in towards second. But look, this battle's not over, as he does have that penalty. So that train behind will be looking to seize the opportunity of maybe getting in front of Dirk and Rafal, of course, who also has that penalty as well. But Thomas Covers gets ahead of ML/ for 12th. Thomas, of course, we saw had a bit of an interesting gamble on the intermediates last week, or going on to the intermediates, I should say, last week. He finished 10th, looking to maybe, hopefully, squeeze into 10th here today. He's got 11th and 10th right in front of him, but they're both very good drivers. Dara and Phil, both potentially championship challengers, but I tell you what, the championship is going to be going one way after today, and that'll be towards TF10 Dirk as it stands. But does have that penalty, I have to remind you. Here comes Danielle, swaps to the outside, you can see on the Red Bull. Bit of a nudge between the two. Danielle, he's been biding his time. But he gets ahead. The Ferrari man now up to 5th place in this Grand Prix. Lap 16 to 27. No sign of the rain easing up or completely just yet. I wonder, are we in for another Montreal situation, Byron?
We definitely could be. Well, it's about 8 minutes until the rain ends. So looking at about 4 laps time or so. So it could be very difficult in terms of whether you swap or not. But I think it's going to be a bit of a clear decision. I think it's going to be a no-brainer to go to a set of soft compound tyres. But very good thing you pointed out the overtake from Daniel and how he bided his time on it, because he definitely did. He's had some very good pace in this race, but unfortunately for him, he's got 2 warnings, so he has to be a little bit more careful about how he places the car to try and make sure he does not get that 3rd strike and a 3-second time penalty to suit, because as of now, that would drop him about 3 places down, so he'd be 8th place based on how things are looking currently, so he needs to avoid that at all costs, especially given how he is looking in this championship. He's not looking half bad at all in the championship hunt, as he is obviously in 3rd, so he's got to try anything he can at this stage, and well, he's got to try and get some good points here if he wants to try and challenge Dirk for this championship.
This is definitely not the technical term for it, but the track is starting to look slippy. It's starting to look like it's just getting a little bit greasy. The rain is easing, and maybe we are starting to see the formation of a drier line, or not necessarily a completely dry line, but we will await and see whether that does arrive. Phil is ahead of Dara Smith for 11th position. The Red Bullman is past the Sauber. Can the Sauber get the exit on him? No, he cannot quite. The other Red Bull's lost on an exit, however. He's lost to the Norwegian of Hazara. Having a Norwegian in these conditions is almost guaranteed to be a good result, because of course, given the Norwegian climate, they're probably well used to slippery conditions. Maybe not necessarily rain, that's probably a British and Irish thing, and Will is definitely showing how our climate has adapted us as a species, considering how quick he is in this race. Rafal still 4/10 behind Dirk, but he's just not able to inch past, and it seems like the Aston Martin is good for the time being. I'm not seeing much rain anymore, Byron. I wonder, is this the start of a potential dry period?
It absolutely is the start of a potential dry period. My telemetry is still saying it's raining, but whether that's raining just in one point on the track, you've got to remember how big this track is, especially with all those runoff areas. If one bit of this track is still got rain, the telemetry is going to tell me it's raining, even if it's still, the track is really beginning to dry. In fact, we have Ryan come in and retire from this race, but TF10, Max von der Geest, he's in. It's a set of medium compound tyres. We have a gambler. It's Max von der Geest. He's down in 18th. He's not got much to lose from taking this gamble. Nothing to lose here.
And just a quick one, cast your eyes back to Imola 2 seasons ago, season 34. Max von der Geest stayed out on a set of the slicks sorry, no, stayed out in the set of the Inters in dry conditions and won the race. He is a man who knows how to drive on the wrong tyres and the wrong conditions. Maybe a little bit early. He turned into Tony Hawk for a second over that curb as Rayan had to leave once the rain left. There's a pun in there somewhere. I haven't quite hit the mark, but 3.9 seconds. If you're Will Murdoch, you're very unsure what to do at the time being. You're in your best position in a PSGL race for quite some time. Is he going to come into the pits? He carries on. White line penalties. Remember, you got to stay within them. A certain Dutchman was hit by them back a good few seasons ago in PCF1. A certain Dutch championship leader for us in the form of Dirk doesn't want to do the same. Hazara into the pit lane, as well as Francesco Lago. The real question here is it going to be softs and mediums for these guys? That's what I'm intrigued to see. Max went for the mediums. Sometimes they say a harder compound can be better in these conditions, and yeah, it's looking like it's going to be mediums for these guys as well.
Yeah, mediums going on for a lot of them, and I've got yourself a joke and a pun about Rayan returning from this race. When it doesn't rain, it pours, and it certainly has rained for Rayan. I tried. I made it work.
You say I was told that was just going to be a below par cliche, but you saved that at the end.
I did just about save it, but Will Murdoch...
And actually, just going to get a plug in here quickly. If you want more dreadful puns, you can tune into PSF1 with James Head coming up after we conclude our action here.
That is well, I'm not sure how James Head will feel about that when he maybe listens to this one back. Well, nonetheless, but I'm looking at the sector times, and these intermediate tyres, they are nonetheless getting some very good sector times now because we're getting back towards dry conditions, and DRS has been re-enabled, so nonetheless, showing that these dry tyres are going to be beginning to come into play here, but Will Murdoch now beginning to go through as he heads into Virage de Lac there, which is turn number 14. Does he go into the pit lane? Yes, he does. So he doesn't decide to gamble. Neither does Dirk in this race. So it looks like it's going to be all change, as they would say on the London Underground at Termini. It is time to change onto a set of those dry compound tyres.
Yes, it is, and unlike the London Underground at times, there's no delay in getting into the pit lane. Will Murdoch goes for the softs. Marcus Costa carries on. There's always one, as they say. Marcus Costa carries on the set of the Inters. I mean, for this lap, it mightn't be a bad thing, but I think in a couple of laps' time, that's criminal, as he just about takes the race lead ahead of Will Murdoch. Well, we have a direct comparison between the slicks and the Inters, I suppose. Let's see Will Murdoch through the corners. He's got to be careful and get these up to temperature. He's gone for a set of the softs for 7 laps. Dirk goes for a set of the mediums, as does Rafal. It's softs for Fasilo, as that's Thomas Covers.
Thomas Covers.
Out of the race. Is that in the pit lane? I believe it is. I believe it is in the pit lane for Thomas Covers, and he is out of the French Grand Prix. He does not continue, as Will Murdoch is already up to speed here. He's looking to overtake Marcus Costa soon. Max van der Geest has crashed that's also in the pit lane. So Max gives up the ghost as well. One McLaren leads the race, the other man retires from it. That McLaren no longer leads the race. Will Murdoch is back on his perch.
Yeah, Will Murdoch is back into P1 in this race. He's not really looked out of the doubts for it at any point in this race. He's just been there when he's needed to be, and he has just been utterly dominant over this one. You cannot fault that man in the slightest here. What a display he has had so far, and it's definitely interesting to see, what, these drivers were saying, bet Thomas Covers for pole. But, that was what Dirk said of all people. But Will Murdoch, he has rocked up and delivered such a good result here. And I'm so, interested to see, what Will Murdoch has to say, because he has not put a foot wrong at any point in this race. Marcus Costa, though, in second place, and he's not doing a half-bad job here.
He's not doing a half-bad job at all, actually, on this intermediate. Will is phenomenally quick, but sorry, intermediate. Did I say intermediate? Well, he's on the intermediate. Will's not doing a half-bad job at all at the top, and Marcus is not doing a half-bad job at all in second, but the track is getting pretty much dry, so he's going to have to try coast that one to the end. But, I mean, he was down the back, so it's worth a gamble. It absolutely is worth a gamble as Danielle picks up a 3-second time penalty. He becomes the third man in the top 10 to receive a time penalty for track extensions, free track extensions, and you pick yourself up a 3-second time penalty. You do another 3, that becomes 6, and that's the penalty system, of course. Michelle as well looking to try take a second consecutive points scoring race in 10th, currently behind Francesco Lago. Looking to make it maybe even more than just a point-scoring race, but a multiple point-scoring race. There goes Rafal, past your championship leader as it stands. Rafal onto the podium in 3rd, but remember, Fasilo would get both these spots, as would Hazara, due to the penalty situation. 5/10 between Marcus Costa and Rafal. It seems like it's a matter of time, really.
Yeah, it absolutely is a matter of time, but speaking of time, think about those all-important time penalties, especially for Marcus Costa. He might be trundling around on the intermediate tires. He knows he's going to be a lot slower, but those time penalties of 3 seconds for some of these drivers, he hasn't got a single warning all race, so he has a lot to gain, especially if he's within 3 seconds of another car. But with 6 laps to go, I think it's not going to really work for Marcus Costa, unfortunately, and he's called it in. He's coming into the pit lane. That gamble just has not worked.
Yeah, if it was 3 or 4, or 2 or 3 maybe, might have been worth it, but I think just a step too far maybe for Marcus Costa as Michelle ran the outside of Francesco Lago. The AlphaTauri has proved the better of the senior Red Bull, because that was a fabulous move from Michelle to get ahead of Francesco, and he's now up to 8th place. Will Murdoch fastest lap of the race. I imagine we're going to have a little bit of swapping and changing of the fastest lap, because obviously the track is just getting drier, and that means lap times get quicker. But 4.8 the gap between Will and Rafal, technically 7.8, because you add the free on for Rafal, the 3-second time penalty. That is quick mathematics for you folks at home. 2:10 separates Rafal and Dirk. Is Dirk going to go for this one? Yes, he absolutely is. The thing with these two is they can't get too caught up battling each other, because they still have to try extend the gap to the rest of the field to try limit the damage that this penalty is going to give them.
Yeah, exactly. That damage from that penalty is not going to be too, difficult for them. They know they've got the pace. They've just got to really unleash it without getting another penalty. Because that could really really hamper chances of getting a good result out of this race. But Dirk in second, not looking too bad at all. And really, he's got a big margin ahead of him to Will Murdoch, who he's just blistering on these set of soft compound tyres. But if those softs fall off quickly, don't count Dirk out to maybe hunt him down towards the latter stages of this race. But it's going to be a bit difficult, I think, for him to get ahead of Will Murdoch. And there's also not much point, as Will Murdoch says, a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:35.378, but beaten by TF10 Dirk there on the mediums. So actually, I said about, Will Murdoch comfortably out in front, but a big swing there. Quite a bit faster there is Dirk ahead. Well, Dirk, who is behind Will Murdoch.
Yes, Will Murdoch, fastest lap of the race, was beaten by Tales pretty swiftly, as Tales does set the fastest lap in 14th. I don't believe you get a point for it outside the top 10, which is disappointing, but you can brag. Oh, I was the quickest man out in the circuit. Although a bit far-fetched maybe if you were bragging from 14th. I'd still try it if it was me. As here comes Michelle trying to cut through the field again and get past Devon. This AlphaTauri is rocking around Paul Ricard. Excellent pace for the CPI then. Francesco Lago picks up a 3-second time penalty right behind this battle. It seems like the medium, a very strong tyre for the time being. There's not much of a pace deficit between that and the soft. Obviously, if you're on the soft, though, you got to manage it from lap 20 to the end, which is when most of them pit. So a bit of race management ongoing still in the field. Rafal in third, not managing much. Not managing to get past Dirk either, however.
Yeah, not looking too bad at all. TF10, Dirk, he's managing to hold off Raphael very well in this race, and their pace is still very good relative to those around them, and certainly, Will Murdoch, who's out in front, sets another fastest lap of the race. So maybe the time's just getting better and better here as Fuselo does another fastest lap. So yeah, proving the point that the track is just getting better and better as Michelle XP, another fastest lap time there. So the track is just ramping up more and more every time of asking, and nonetheless, Will Murdoch, he's still out in front though by a very comfortable margin, 4.6 seconds. You can't ask any more from him. but certainly those behind are going to keep squabbling into the sunset here around the Le Castellet circuit because, well, it's just so difficult.
It is difficult, and I wonder have the nerves maybe started to kick in for Will Murdoch just yet, but he's doing a phenomenal job and usually has ice in the veins and doesn't fault, but yeah, he hasn't had to pull out the dive bombs that we see from him. He's actually had to control it from the front, which is maybe not something he's oh so used to in a PSGL circumstance, but look, just needs to manage his tyres, manage everything in the car, and drive it from now to the end of this race. Michel trying the outside here on IoT. Devon, of course, 4th place the last time we came to Paul Ricard. He's now in 7th, but might be a beneficiary of some penalties in front, so can't afford to lose the position. Or sorry, I should say can afford maybe to lose the position because Michel does have that penalty, but then, of course, can't pick up anything himself. We're coming on to lap 25 here at this French Grand Prix, and I tell you what, there's a lot of the minor placings still to be decided here. And the race win,
Yeah,
still. I don't want to say anything too early.
Absolutely, especially, Will Murdoch, if he has a sloppy couple of laps, gets 2 warnings, all of a sudden, Fusilo, who hasn't got a penalty, could possibly gain up and get, the race win. It'd be very difficult for the Williams driver, especially given he's now out of DRS range of Raphael and Dirk ahead. But anything is possible in this race, and I think that's the kind of important memo to keep in mind as we head through these final couple of laps. And Will Murdoch, he's just, doing enough as things stand, but it's not out of the question that those behind have, a blistering end to the race, especially given he hasn't been, brilliantly paced against the likes of Dirk and Raphael. He was 6 times slower than the pair of them last time around, so they're gaining a good amount of time, but whether it's enough that they're able to get in within that sort of range that Will Murdoch has to think about, pushing on a bit more, that is, I think, the really important question here. But as things stand, out in front, Raphael trying to get ahead of Dirk, and this battle could help Will Murdoch quite a lot here.
Absolutely could, but this definitely is going to decide a lot for these two, because this could be the difference between a championship win and a championship loss for Dirk. Come the end of the season, of course, that's a long run approach, I suppose, but definitely could decide a lot. They both have the 3-second penalties. They'll both fall behind Fusilo and Hazara as it stands. They're racing purely to stay out of that, maybe. 3.7 behind the race leader for Dirk. It's 5.2 for Fusilo. So definitely still within that penalty gap. Daniel, fastest lap of the Grand Prix in 6th. So he's another man to keep up maybe as we enter the penultimate lap of racing. Disappointing for ML Slash. His no points season continues. He's into the pit lane and retires. The home team are looking to get a few points in the form of IRT Devon, but maybe not as much as they once would have wanted. And speaking of no points, there's going to be nothing on the board come the end of the day for McLaren either. Marcus Costa, though, you have to respect him for trying something different.
Yeah, it was a really good gamble from him to try and do something different, but it just didn't work for him, unfortunately. I think that's kind of the key sentiment, to try and, run it a bit longer on those wet compound tyres and then go on to the intermediates later on. They didn't know necessarily the intermediate tyres would be that good because, everyone got dealt a different weather forecast once again, annoyingly, and some people, really didn't get as much information as they might have wanted, but nonetheless, you deal with the cards you dealt. But no one who ran later on those wet compound tyres in the top 10, actually, I say that as Phil is in the top 10 only just, so that's actually ever so slightly wrong. He ran later on the wets, but only on the fringes of the top 10, so that gamble didn't work for any of them, and unfortunately, Marcus Costa, one of them, as we head on to the, lap 27 and 27, it's the final lap already. Will Murdoch, he's really had this race under control, and to the point where I've just checked out and stopped looking at the lap counter.
Yeah, I love how sunny it is now, Byron. We were in monsoon conditions come the start of this race.
Yeah, yeah, it's France weather for you, and nonetheless, the battling's gonna continue. And this could be a bit of drama to the end of this race, because now Raphael wants to probably get ahead of Dirk, knowing this could help him get a few more places in this race if he's able to get ahead. And here he goes alongside and ahead. Wow, the straight line speed on that Sauber car there, and comfortably ahead of the Aston Martin there is behind TRT Daniel, gets ahead of Hazara there.
Look, just look at the
into
gap between Rafal and Dirk. Sorry to jump over you here, Byron, but how is he so far ahead already? That's obscene from the Sauber. He must have broke about 100 metres later than the Aston Martin. I'm really confused as that one, but it's looking like Rafal is going to finish ahead of Dirk. However, it's not often a moment like this arrives in PSGL F2, so we've got to take a look at your race leader. He's lost about a second on this lap, purely trying to bring the car home. Will Murdoch has not stood on a PSGL F podium since season 34, round 11. And when it rains and it's like a swimming pool, who better to call than an Olympian? Will Murdoch wins for the first time in PSGL in 3 years. The most experienced man to ever grace an F2 grid will finally see home gold once again. Paul Ricard will become maybe his new favourite circuit as the Mercedesman picks up 16 of the sweetest points he might ever take in PSGL. Facilio gets second because of the points, but Byron, the rocket ship as I might have called it of a Sauber, picks home third.
Yeah, not a bad result there. That rocket ship down the straight, and it really paid its dividends there because, yeah, Dirk in 4th place there. So only losing 1 place for the pair of them as they got ahead of Fuselo there. Well, Fuselo, sorry, jumped the pair of them due to their penalties. But Will Murdoch, as you said, first time in 3 years taking to the top step of the podium. There is no medal sweeter than that one for Will Murdoch, and what a race. Well deserved there for the Mercedes driver in season 36 of PSGL, and nonetheless, it is going to be an absolute joy to hopefully speak to him in a few moments' time. What a race that was.
Yes, incredible. And that is a fantastic one. I'm so happy for Will. I'm absolutely so happy. We don't show bias as commentators, but I am so happy for him. And I've told him that he's doing an interview, so we will hear from him. But it is Will Murdoch who takes the race win from 16th on the grid. 16th. Filcilio in 2nd, Rafal 3rd, Dirk 4th, then it is Hazara, Danielle, Devon, Dara, Phil, Francesco, then it is Michelle, Johan, Diogo, Tales, Marcus Costa, Emil / Thomas covers, Max van der Geest, Ryan and Damiano. Byron, I think I saw you getting it out of covers. Did he have the same weather issue that he had last week?
Yeah, the weather seems to be a real issue on this game. For some reason, it feeds the drivers slightly different information, and that's why some of these drivers take a gamble that we look at and go, is that the right thing? And that's why so many drivers stayed out on the wet tyres last time out, and some drivers obviously stayed out on the inters last time out in Canada. So the weather is seemingly always a problem around around this game. So nonetheless, what a race that was. Will Murdoch, what a win to take. The conditions working maybe to his benefit, but nonetheless, gonna be great to hopefully hear from him in just a couple of moments' time.
Yes, will be fantastic to hear from Will in a few moments. However, next week, Byron, we just take a quick look. It's also a typically sunny place. It's Portugal. We return to another track not on the F1 calendar. Should be a good one. Actually, we'll talk a brief bit about that after the interview, because let's bring in your race winner. Someone moved the waiting room on Discord. That caught me up for a second. Here is Will Murdoch. Hello, Will. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Not even a question. Just tell us how that feels, because that's incredible.
It's taken too long. It's taken way too long. For the first time since season 26. I've just gone back on the archives to find that. Season 26 Vietnam, and it's been a while. And I had no expectations for what just happened, but I didn't even expect to be that fast in the rain. I just chucked on a setup, just chucked the wings up. I thought that looks about right, and I just turned out to be fast. And then I was kind of hoping that the rain would stay, because honestly, I hadn't done any dry laps in the race. I'd literally just done one quali session, and that was it. And yeah, I'm honestly speechless.
you did it in like the most Will Murdoch fashion ever. You started 16th, gained 11 positions on the first lap, and then just controlled it at the front. How did you control it so well at the front? You just seem to have so much more pace than everyone else. And actually, a better question: what made you gamble on that set of tires?
Well, I was looking on the race strategy and I seen it was heavy wet, so I was like, okay. And then I must have been bored or something and just looked at the inters and it said that the inters were like 7 tenths quicker across like the entire race. So I was like, okay. I thought I'll give it a go, and then looked on the I looked around me. I seen that there was no one else on wet, so I thought, okay, let's give it a go. It might be a bit out of the ordinary, and it was very chaotic at the start. I think on the first lap, I think the wets were quicker. I was really struggling for traction, um, and then I just seen everyone peel into the pits, and I thought, okay, we're in about fifth place here, and then I just smashed through the four in front, and then somehow kept the pace. I don't know how I even kept up that pace, considering that my tyres were probably a couple laps older than Dirk's and whoever else was behind. I can't remember who it was. But yeah, I just did my own thing. It might have looked easy, but I'm telling you now, my heart was absolutely racing.
We could tell by the last lap time. The second dropped
Yeah.
pretty quickly there, but we've all been in that situation. Then just tell the guys and girls at home how you kept going, not winning a race for 3 years in PSGL, because it's not easy to turn up every week knowing, oh, well, I mightn't win again. You almost won last week. You're only a lap off. What kept you going to get here and to win this race?
Honestly, the fact that I can naturally be good at this game and not put in a lot of effort and pull out a performance like that, it kind of makes me enjoy it a lot more. I don't have to put in so many hours. I don't have to put in 5, 6 hours a day compared to other people, and it makes stuff like this so much more rewarding. And even though I've not won a race for like 4 years until now, like I just found it enjoyable, just being able to race people and not having to put so much effort in. And especially in the rain, when it comes to rain, you never really practice for the rain. It's more like instinct, and you just have to find the grip. You have to just hope that your setup and yourself can adapt to the conditions. And I feel like sometimes if you do less practice, you sort of and it does rain, it does end up being more of a level playing field, which obviously does help. So yeah, it's been a long old journey since I won the F2 title. It's been a long time since I've been in this position.
Byron, do you have any questions for Will?
Not at all. Just congratulations for a first win in 3 years. Can't have been easy, but nonetheless, you finally did it, and what a way to do it, and what a race to totally and utterly dominate.
Thank you very much.
Great to hear from Will after what will go down as a historic win in this F2 championship. But as we were saying before, we head to Portugal next week. Byron, it's another difficult circuit. Should be an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely should be a great time around the Portimao circuit, and one that really lends itself to a good race or to some very long DRS straight and plenty of overtaking opportunities around there too. How late do you dare brake, and how much do you try and go side by side, especially through some of the more difficult corners? But that is when we head to Portugal next time out, and then we've got Azerbaijan, and then we have the Netherlands, Brazil, and Texas to finish off a season that will no doubt be going in the history books. And well, that race win for Will Murdoch certainly going in the history books too. And I cannot wait to see what we get next time out in Portugal.
Yes, should be an absolutely fantastic one. Byron, thank you very much for joining me again this evening. Did you enjoy the French Grand Prix?
You couldn't have not enjoyed it, and absolutely one of the best races of the season, no doubt. Plenty of overtakes, plenty of drama, plenty of chaos. You couldn't have asked for anything better.
I think Byron summed it up nicely there, folks. We're going to let you go and enjoy some PSGL F1 action. Qualifying just finishing up there, and you'll be in perfect time once we conclude our adverts and stuff. But thank you very much for joining myself and Byron for this evening. Make sure you go check out our title sponsors, GT Omega and Sim Racing Centre, and make sure you go follow all our social channels. There was a lot of tweets posted during the race, so make sure you go and check those out. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe, stay well, and we shall see you next time. Bye-bye.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL. It's Wednesday night. It's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Bormann goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Bormann and Warner, but Bormann's got the inside.
Star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin still lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though.